Okay, we're gonna bring the meeting to order Monday, August 18th, 6 p.m. First is roll call.
Yes. Doug Mendenhall.
Here.
Greg Pennerly.
Here.
Perfect, thank you. Michaela Hammerson.
Here.
Bill Hagedorn.
Here.
Gina Bean.
Here.
Bill Morton.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, and then Doug, you wanna go ahead and lead the pledge?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic, and one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So the first agenda item is to appoint a member to the executive committee, which requires a vote. So we need a motion to nominate an individual for the executive committee.
I make a motion to nominate Greg Kennedy.
Any further nominations?
What's this for?
The executive, for the executive committee. Executive committee?
Okay. For what's it for?
To be a member of the executive committee.
Okay, gotcha. It cutting in and out.
Oh, that's all right. Hold on, we're gonna adjust the volume. Is that better?
Yeah,
Okay. Do you accept the nomination?
yes.
Okay. Is there any further nominations? Okay, so we just need to go to a vote.
We
All
need
in
a
favor?
second. I'll second the
Aye.
nomination.
Sorry, Michaela, what?
We need a second, but I will second the
Sorry.
nomination.
Thank you. So seconded, now let's move to a vote. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Next item of business is to move into executive session. We also need a motion to do that and a vote for ORS 192660.
I'll make the motion to move in executive session.
Second.
Perfect. So all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. I have a point of information just really quickly. Do we need to move in based on 2 ORSs or just one?
It looks like it's one ORS, but 2 issues that fall under the same one.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much.
And Greg,
What's that?
did you vote?
I missed it. Yes.
Yes, okay.
You-
Okay, so we're gonna go into executive session now, which means it'll be just the board and legal counsel. So we're gonna ask everybody to please leave and we'll let you know when we are out of executive session and what we discuss in executive session.
Before you go, may I ask a question of the board?
We're gonna open public comment after the executive session. if that's
Okay.
And then everybody that is online, you can jump off and then go back into the waiting room and then we'll admit you once executive session is over.
Okay.
I just realized we didn't have anybody from the news identify themselves if they're going to be joining executive session.
I'm gonna wait till the room clears and see who's left, but thank you for bringing that to our attention. So are you pressed?
Yeah.
Perfect,
Got my idea, sorry.
okay.
You want me to still make sure I do box off or you're good?
Yeah, I'll make sure everybody goes off, except for Greg and. And then. Ben, that's this executive session, which is the board and the legal counsel.
On this one?
Yeah, we'll call you back in as soon as we're out. Thank you. You have a lot more to do than normal.
Uh-huh. Yes.
Make sure I don't have someone put over free.
So just Michaela, that's Kimberly, everything's good, all right. Right.
Okay. Did everybody get a chance to review the Secretary of State stuff? Okay. Okay, so
Are we, turning off the recording?
it's still recording, but we are not transmitting it to anybody that's not in the room.
Generally, we turn off the recording during executive session.
We can, if that is what everybody wants us to do. Do you guys want to? Okay, so I can do
Yeah,
this.
so we should just take minutes and we report the minutes of any action taken. That's all
Yeah.
from that executive session. If we choose to take action, we're gonna have to do it again when everybody's here.
So we are going to resume the public session, and report out on what was discussed in the executive session. So we consulted with the attorney on his advice as far as moving forward with certifying the election and the potential, or not potential, but the investigation with Secretary of State. And his advice was that as a district, we need to move forward with certifying the election. We also discussed the resignation of the current CEO and our next steps on that, as far as accepting the resignation as well as the terms of the employment contract. And we will be making a motion on both of those items and then moving on with the rest of the agenda.
I'd like to make a motion that we certify the election.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion to certify the election. Do you want to make a separate motion on the payment or do them both in one?
I'll
These names-
make a motion also to do that, to pay the county what we owe.
Okay.
These are totally separate issues. They need to be
There's-
voted on separately.
Okay. So we'll vote on the initial motion to certify the election. All those in favor, say aye.
Hold on,
Aye.
hold on. Before you can do that, you have to allow discussion, and I do have discussion.
Okay,
Am I recognized?
yes, you're good.
Thank you. I oppose this motion because there is a legal challenge for the election, which is the reason that the initial certification was not completed. And that is because there is a formal legal challenge between Todd Vaughn and the county, in which additional documentation has been requested and has not been provided. The public should have access to their election records when they're requested, and I think this issue could be resolved very quickly if the county clerk would just comply with the public records request, which has not happened. So I want my statement on the record to be that I disagree with certification until the county clerk complies with public records requests so that we can have transparent elections. Thank you.
Thanks, Michaela. Does anybody else have any discussion from the board?
I do. we're advised that our job is to simply look at the abstract,
Thank you.
make sure the numbers on the abstract are correct and send them back to county clerk.
Shut up.
Julian?
And that's been advised by legal counsel.
Does anybody else have anything? Greg, do you have anything you wanna comment? Bill? Bill? Okay, so we are going to move to take a vote on certifying the election. All those in favor?
Aye.
Michaela,
I'm opposed.
Greg? Oh, you're muted, Greg.
Aye.
The motion passes.
Point of information, did we turn the recording back on when we came back from executive session?
Yes, we did. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so the second issue is the payment to the county for the election.
I'll make a motion that we pay the county what we owe.
Second.
Do we have any discussion?
I do have discussion because I don't think the community knows what has happened, but a request was sent when the bill was received to the county clerk, asking for the county clerk to tell us what was being charged. So we are being requested to pay $32,000. Most of the other districts in our area are paying significantly less, maybe like $1,000. And so our bill was exceptionally higher than the other districts. And so a request was sent out to find out what the itemization was for the election costs. And the county clerk refused to comply with that just general request from our CFO. And in fact, made us do a public records request in order to get that information when we as a district have a fiscal responsibility to make sure that all of the dollars that go out are accounted for in a way that makes sense and that is on the up and up. And that was not, the county clerk was not helping to facilitate us getting that information in order to pay the bill. I don't know if we ever received all of the information that was requested from the county clerk. And I would like to ensure that this board is making sure that they follow through with getting that information.
I did see information included in our previous board's packet that was an itemization of the election. And I can look it over and maybe find out from you what other further information you think you may be possibly missing. Does anybody else have any discussion? Okay, so we're ready to vote on the motion to pay the county for the election. The total amount owed. Does anybody or all those in favor?
Nice.
Aye.
Greg, it looked like you mouthed towards aye. Thumbs up.
Aye. It keeps going on mute.
That's right. Okay, so it passes unanimously.
She just wanted you to see it too.
Oh, yeah, you just see it. Too. Okay. The next agenda item was item 6. It was brought up in the executive session that before we can swear in the elected official, we have to send a notice to the county that we have certified the election. So at this time, we're going to table that agenda item and come back to it. Agenda item 7 is the resolution number 25-4, which is designating the bank signatories. We have the current documents that has the signatories listed to be designated. Oh, I'm sorry, there was one other item in the executive session. Thank you. We also need to make a motion regarding the resignation of the CEO.
I make a motion that we accept it,
effective,
effective the date he signed it, that August the 13th, I think it was,
effective immediately.
immediately, yes.
Um,
Second.
I was gonna ask, can I ask as far as for the purposes we spoke of with,
And direct the executive committee to work out the terms of the agreement with you.
do you wanna restate all that?
What he
Take a
said.
stab at what
What
he
he
said.
said.
Okay, so there's a motion to accept the resignation of the CEO effective immediately of the date of the letter and direct the executive committee to but, I'm sorry, what?
Yeah.
13th. And direct the executive committee to investigate the terms of the employment contract. That. Close enough?
And so that's great.
And severance agreement. All right, do we have a second? Thank you. Okay, so do we have any discussion on that?
I don't have discussion, but I would like to just note for the record that again, I'm going to be abstaining from this vote. I also abstained in executive session. This is just for the purpose of upholding the integrity in this process, as I do have other connections with Ben Edel outside of this board. And so throughout this entire process, I have abstained every time we have participated in discussion or vote on his employment status. Thank you.
Thanks, Akila. Greg, do you have any discussion?
Yeah, so we're gonna negotiate the terms and everything. I mean, right, with his severance pay. Would we add
Yes.
that in there? Okay, just want to make sure because I didn't hear that part that we were gonna
Yeah.
negotiate with him.
I'll try to restate it correctly when I restate it, but yeah, it was the last thing and the severance agreement.
Okay.
Bill, do you have anything?
Nope.
I don't think we're.
Okay. All those in favor of accepting the CEO's resignation effective of the August 13th. Effective immediately and directing the executive board to negotiate the terms of the employment contract and severance agreement, say aye.
Aye.
All right.
Okay, so motion passes with one abstaining. Okay.
And excuse.
Yeah, thank you for your time.
Thanks, Dan. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so now we can move on to agenda item number 7, the resolution number 25-4 designating bank signatories. So in the board packet, there was the signatory paper, which listed Ben Edel on it also as one of the signers. I did ask Amira to also prepare an alternate to that, removing the CEO at this time in case we accepted the resignation. And it just lists myself and Doug Mendenhall, and then down the line in the future, we would need to probably have another motion to add somebody else when appropriate. So,
I make a motion that we accept that.
okay,
Second.
I have a recommendation that we perhaps add the CFO as a signatory.
okay. Is there any discussion on that?
She was the
So we would just-
signatory previously when we didn't have a CEO, so that's what's been done in the past.
Sorry, Michaela, there was background noise. Will you try again? I couldn't hear you.
Yeah, when we previously didn't have a CEO last year, she served in an interim position to be able to be a signer, I believe.
Okay, hold on, I'm gonna have Sherry, you were,
I was not.
you weren't,
Not on the signatory.
okay. So I think, Michaela, we probably need to look into it a little bit more, of who would be appropriate. But for now, I know we need to have somebody that's able to sign.
Agreed.
Okay. Is there any other discussion? Greg? Sorry, Greg. You're muted again.
No, I don't have anything else to add, as long as we find somebody that can sign.
Okay. Okay. Bill?
No.
Tom?
Thank you.
Okay.
Order.
Okay, so
Hello.
all in favor of moving ahead with the new designation, the resolution designating bank signatories as stands with myself and Doug Mendenhall listed. Say aye.
I,
I,
All those opposed?
I was an I too. I just didn't get to the unmute in time.
You're fine, thank you. Okay, so passes unanimously.
Oh my goodness.
What is that?
Horn.
Mhm.
You can touch it. I don't know how you feel that. Somebody's drawing on the. Yeah. All right.
Okay, so moving forward, we have the consent agenda, which includes the meeting minutes from the July 21st meeting and the July preventative maintenance report. Do we have a motion to accept those stands?
And so move.
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor? I'm sorry, is there any discussion on that?
Sometimes
No?
we have Andre present the preventative maintenance report, but I don't know if he's there.
This was the former one.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
That's okay, thank you. Okay, all those in favor?
I,
Any opposed? Okay, so moving forward to the ODOT update, is Jennifer on?
I am.
Oh, there she is.
So,
Okay, we can hear you.
yeah, a couple of things. Just wanted to clarify on funding. I know that there have been a bunch of different articles that have come out in the newspaper just about the different funding and the delays and all of the rest of that. The funding, as far as the injunction goes, that funding is going to be available. We have the applications in with the feds. We're just waiting on approval for those. But there will be delays in funding because they have limited staff. So just wanted to give you guys an update on that. And I've been keeping in touch with Sherry as we go through this, and also with George, so that they understand a little bit better about timing on when the funding is going to come. So we do have some delays, and I know that that's one of the topics that's going to be talked about later, as far as service and the need to make some modifications possibly. Training, you have a lot of new board members. When you had a big increase in board members last time, new members, we did a FTA 101 class, and that is something that I highly recommend again. And I would imagine that's going to be something that is brought up at your compliance review, which will happen in September. So I'm more than happy to do that at any time to help you guys get that training taken care of. Also wanted to call out the Oregon Transportation Conference, which is going to be November 5th or 2nd through the 5th in Bend. And scholarships are available. And there's a lot of great classes that are going to be happening at that conference. You do have to have your scholarship in by October 2nd in order to attend that. So you would definitely want to get your scholarship application in. National RTAP is one other conference that I highly recommend. This year it's in Austin, and it's December 7th through the 10th. You would need to have your scholarship application in no later than November 7th. But they have a lot of great trainings, and it's Rural Transportation Association. So they deal specifically with issues that happen with rural transportation. So definitely recommending those two conferences that are coming up for training opportunities. And then I did mention the compliance review, because you guys were listed just as a higher risk agency because of your funding and a lot of changes that are going on. RLS will be coming back this year. It's a year from when you did your last compliance review. And you should be getting a link here pretty shortly that will provide you opportunity to upload documents. The more documents you upload prior to the review, the better off you are during the review. And it's going to be a 2-day review. It's September 24th and 25th. And then there'll be a report just like we did last time. And if they have any findings, then they will share those out and we'll get those closed like we did the last time. Let's see, in addition, we have currently several folks that are on the layoff list that are specifically with our finance department and paying the providers. We don't know what's going to happen, but they are scheduled to be laid off starting on September 15th. So definitely could be delays with our funding because of those layoffs. And then the other thing, Sherry already got her report in and her reimbursements in for the 4th quarter. So thank you, Sherry, for getting that done and getting it through the process, because they take them first in, first out. So the people that get them in quickest get their money the fastest. So yay.
Good job, Sherry.
Yes, good job, Sherry. I think you already got some of the money in the bank. But let's see, I think that's all I have. Oh, the other thing that we did do, my supervisor got to your letter that you all sent in as far as your suggestion on repayment of the charging stations. And that was sent to Ben. I'm not sure who else it was sent to, but last week my manager made a suggestion on a couple of changes. And so that is something that the board will need to look at and make a determination fairly soon about repayment of those charging stations. So that's all I have.
Jennifer, the one class you talked about that you said you were willing to help with, that's in person, right?
Yeah, I can be in person. We can do it virtually, whichever works. I just need to have a little bit of a heads up on a date so that I can make plans to have my dogs taken care of. So.
Okay. Okay, and I know I'm registered for the training in Eugene next month, but maybe we will look at dates for the in-person and try to get that together for at least all the new board members.
Great. Yes, and I highly recommend using the special districts. They have a lot of trainings that are online and also in person. So highly recommend all of those trainings, because you guys pay into that with your payment to belong to the special districts. So you might as well take advantage of those opportunities.
Thank you. Did you guys have any questions?
Is the thing she's referring to her doing in person, is that same as the one being offered in Eugene? Or is that the special district training? In September?
Did you hear that, Jennifer?
I did
The one-
not.
The in-person is different than the training that's next month in Eugene, right?
Correct. Yeah, the training that I would do is different. It's basically an overview of all the funding that the state does and that the feds do.
And when's that going to be, Jennifer?
It's up to you all. Whenever you would
Okay.
like me to do that, I can make arrangements and come and do that training anytime,
Perfect.
as long as it's not on a Friday at 5 o'clock.
Fair enough.
Did you guys have any other questions? Okay, all right, thanks, Jennifer. Okay, financial reports? Sherry?
Did everybody get a chance to look at the June and the July financial reports? Does anybody have any questions?
Did you guys go through some of them?
I got that. And
Okay, we budgeted to start off this new fiscal year. With 430,000 of, our funds, and we started out with 360,000, so it was about a $69,000 deficit. 32,000 of it was the election expenses, because they were an unbudgeted item last year. We didn't anticipate having to go through election for 5 board members, so it was unbudgeted. The other 30,000 was, additional expenses, preventive maintenance, that kind of stuff. We also started off July, our STIF funds came in, like almost $100,000 less this quarter than they were. Jennifer might have some background on why that would have happened. Typically, we do see like a fluctuation, they're never the same. So, it is just dependent on the taxes that come in. But we were less than what we, were budgeted to have for this first quarter. Hopefully that will get caught up as the quarters go by. Generally, it does get caught up. Let's see. The federal, as Jennifer said, the federal funds, are being delayed. And we currently are still waiting for 121,000, in federal funds for Q4. We did get our 5311 reimbursement already, but we're still waiting on our 5310 for Q4. Our federal funds are almost 50% of our budgeted income, so we only have our state and federal funds. We don't have very much, local or other funds that come in. So currently we're being told that our Q1 and Q2 federal funds are probably going to be delayed until after January, which is about $507,000 in federal funds. So that's why we had the budgetary constraints added to this meeting, so that you guys could discuss that. And overall, our expenses for July, we did come in on the expense side of it, we did come in 31,000 less than what we had anticipated spending, so that kind of helped a little bit to offset the income that we didn't get on the STIF funds. And we're still waiting for the federal funds.
So day-to-day operations wise, with that delay, how much reserves do we have to be able to operate on if we kept on the way we're going right now?
We don't have any reserves.
You have nothing.
We haven't had any reserves for the last year and a half.
And most of this is being caused by just the federal delays in the funding and the same thing everybody's experiencing across.
It's not just UPTV, it's statewide, it's county, all the counties are facing it. Lane County, Josephine County, they're all experiencing it and doing some major cuts.
Any questions?
I don't know.
Just so I understand correctly, without these budgetary constraints. We
We have
probably end up having to shut the doors.
We have to be able to make it through the end of, into January with just our STIF funding. And the little bit of the Q4 federal funds, 121,000, plus we get a little bit of fare box money, which is nothing. Our fare box revenue is minimal. So we have to figure out how we're going to get January with just our state funding.
And hopefully, once that comes in, if things have changed then, and we're getting reimbursed on a regular rate again, we would be able to reinstate.
Hoping this is gonna be temporary, but there's a lot of uncertainties right now with the federal and state funds, so.
Do you have any questions?
I was gonna ask about Ridge. You answered it.
Doug, did you or Michaela have any, or sorry, Greg, did you or Michaela have any questions?
No. Mm-mm.
I'm sorry, I had to rejoin on my phone because my computer totally froze. But so from what I'm understanding, though, what Sherry just said, this is a statewide problem that we're dealing with federal funds coming in more slowly than expected, correct? And this is not something that UPTD caused.
This is not anything that UPTD has caused. This is actually more than just statewide, it's nationwide.
Perfect. I want that clarification to go on the record because we did come out of the last several months and the compliance issues that we had with ODOT, those were all resolved. And the district was sitting in a very good position until this federal funding slowdown happened, which is not related to anything that's happened in UPTD, including the board changeover that just happened, or anything else that has happened. This is independent of UPTD. So I just want that to be clear for the people who may be watching and wondering what's happening with UPTD, that this isn't caused by UPTD.
Did you have audit report corrections also, Sherry?
In your packet, there is a letter, that was sent to us from the Oregon Secretary of State with a list of issues that they felt, should be corrected on our next audit. It was, I sent the letter over to our auditor because it's really their report that they, submit for the audit. And they just wanted to see some things listed differently and, so that was sent over. Our next audit is due December 31st. So that would be for the fiscal year that we just finished in June. And we're already uploading everything to the auditor. We're already working on getting them everything that they need. And I will touch base with them and make sure that they did see the letter that was sent over. But I sent it over as soon as we had gotten it. But I just wanted to make sure the board.
Do you have any questions about that? And then fun part. The budgetary constraints.
You want to come up or you want to start it or you want me to start it?
Hello, everybody. George Cadillo here. So thank you for having me here today to talk about this. This is a very difficult conversation we have to have today. So as you all heard, the restrictions on state and federal funding. My recommendation as the Chief Operations Officer is that we can survive the storm. There's just cutbacks that we have to do, and it's going to be on routes. But understand that when we looked at this, we looked at population density, we looked at our ridership numbers, and we had to make some very difficult decisions. We're trying to save the district and still be able to provide transportation for people that need to meet their medical appointments, need to be able to go to school, need to be able to go to work. So we have two options here for you today to be able to vote on. I will tell you, both don't look great, but it's a decision that we have to make in order to keep the doors running. We do have some difficult decisions between what I want the board to be able to understand between both options is we also have to take into consideration the staff that we are going to have to lay off regardless on either option. We have to lay off staff. But will we lose more staff depending on which option? So if we keep the staff that after the layoffs, if we reduce their hours too much, will they leave? Now, if we reduce it even more, well, then I can offer more hours to the bus drivers and be able to keep them closer to their compensation that they're currently at right now. But that would mean I would need to lay off another person. So you have two options. Like I said, neither are great options, but they will allow us to be able to get through. And we're projecting, yes, we need to get through to January, but really what I'm looking at is we need to be able to get through February, March timeframe. And then by then, when we get money back into the door, then we can look at saying, okay, how do we rescale up? And then also too, what is the trajectory of funding? What the state funding look like? We know if something gets passed at the end of this month, and then we're not gonna see it in our financial budget till sometime mid next year. If something doesn't pass, then we're gonna have to look at that too. Also too, on a federal level, we're going to have to really look in the new year, what does that funding stream look like? Did the feds cut more taxpayer dollars to transportation districts? We don't know what that looks like. We're gonna have to look at the political landscape. So when the money comes in, I don't recommend saying, let's just throw everything right back online. We really need to do a deep analysis before we understand how do we continue to grow and scale. But yes, that's my opening comment, and Sherry, I'll leave you to talk about what those two options are financially.
Okay, so, I provided the board, with a projection. And as you can see on the left side, without our federal funding, we have a $487,000 shortfall between now and December, the end of December. We've looked at all of the different routes, we've analyzed them. We looked at, you know, the Roseburg, the red and green line is quite frankly, the most of our, most of our ridership uses, the red and green lines. That's for July, that was 5,547 rides. Winston has 728 riders for July. Sutherland had 402 riders for July, and South County had 584 riders. Now, if you take into consideration the cost that the expenses that go along with each one of those routes. We were looking at how much does each one of these routes cost to run it for the month? And that is why we made the recommendation to do away with the South County, the yellow line completely. It goes the furthest out of town. It costs the most to fund, and it makes the biggest impact to our budget. So eliminating the South County entirely is give us a savings of $142,000 through December. And then the other cuts were shortening up some of the red line services, cutting them off earlier in the evening, still keeping the early morning because we have people that, need to get to work and things like that. So we kept the early morning, and we're looking at cutting off the later evening route or times. Also the same thing with the blue line and the gray line. Those are Winston and Sutherland. We looked at, the ridership in the very early mornings or the very early or late evenings, and decided to shorten them up. Start them a little later, end them a little earlier. That has $145,000 savings through December. And then the Saturday service, that's a $22,000 savings. It doesn't cost a lot to run it, but it has the least amount, of riders. And it's fortunately one of the things that we looked at. And with reducing the hours on the red line and green line, that would also reduce some of our paratransit, the need for paratransit. So that would also have a savings of about 10,000 through the end of December. And then the admin, talked about it, and the admin, we were looking at enforcing a furlough to all of the administrative staff. Where the administrative staff would take 2 unpaid days per month. And that's another $22,000 savings.
So if you did all these cuts, what would be the total savings you had?
So the total savings, after we do all of the cuts, we would end up with about a $32,000 for the goods. Going into January, which is not a lot. Now, like George was saying, that means we can it would mean laying off, if we lay 3 drivers off, then the drivers that are left are going to probably have less hours, because we're gonna have to try and spread those hours out. if we lay off that fourth person, then we can keep the current drivers that we keep. We can keep them at like 36, 37 hours, which is what they're accustomed to. So that is all food for thought.
Would you lay off through seniority?
Yes, we developed a matrix that has several key points. There's about 5 key points, and we would weigh them to see how we would lay people off at this point.
Okay.
But one thing I'd like to highlight those in the financials is that across the board, you know, from the CEO down, we are all taking some sort of financial sacrifice along with the drivers and the riders and everything like that in order to make this budget work.
I, for one, thank you for that, because that normally doesn't happen.
What, as far as best case scenario of this working, what do you recommend for best chances of us keeping this up and operating at the level it is? So if we make these cuts, you think that'll get us all the way through March?
I think that it'll get us through the time that we believe that funding will come through. If you were to ask me between the 2 options of laying off 3 or 4 workers, I think it's a hard decision, but I would have to say I would recommend laying off 4 workers to give the remaining of the drivers the amount of hours that they're accustomed to. I feel that if we go down to 3, it'll drop down into the 20-hour range. And I think that that's devastating for all of the drivers to receive that much of a pay cut. And again, I feel bad for the 4th driver, but we have to look at the agency as a whole.
It also mess up their unemployment too.
Mhm. Yes.
Good
Can I
point.
be recognized?
Go ahead, Michaela.
So is the choice is just between the number of drivers? It has nothing to do with the routes. Both of these routes are going to be eliminated as outlined.
So the board would need to vote because of the amount of the budget that is changing. It's over the 10%. So you would be voting on elimination of the routes and also which option 3 or 4 drivers that we were to lay off.
So elimination of the South County route, Saturday's already been done.
Saturdays are gonna be done, yes,
And then shortening the other routes.
correct.
And you said it's the red line and the,
Red line, green line, gray line, and blue line.
So the complete elimination of the South County route, I mean, what is that impact going to be to people who use that? I mean, that's all the way to Canyonville. That's we received a letter from somebody who had concerns about students not being able to make it to UCC, that they can't make it into town for their jobs, and we're planning to make this decision within just 2 weeks. Are we going to have adequate time to hear from people and how that is going to impact them?
So I would say that we need to go through the motions of the board needs to go through the motions of determining what course of action they like to take in order to come up with a decision. My only guidance to the board is that we don't have a lot of time to waste. These are big expenditures and, the window is small. We're already rolling into September. And we have to give notice at least 30 days to the public, which we started to, right? So the clock is ticking. The longer we wait, the less of a savings, the less that we can keep the doors open. So we have to move pretty quickly on this.
According to this, in South County, we lost 521 people anyway,
Correct.
so.
basically what you're saying is, well, one, you're saying there are no good choices,
There are no good choices.
but if we don't act, the alternative is no services sitting.
Correct. And also understand too, like in ridership numbers, it's not that it's 500 different individuals. I mean, it can be the same individual that's riding the bus every single day or the same group of people riding. So we don't have that data, to be quite honest with you, of exactly how many individuals it's impacting. But when you look at the population density and who uses the majority of our services, we're trying to save the biggest number, which is of course that 5,000 ridership compared to 500. So again, very difficult choice to make.
Yeah, I think. I don't envy the decision. I mean, obviously, we'll. Are ultimately telling you which one to make, but at the same time, I recognize the difference between looking at the financial impact. Which is easy, right? Numbers are easy, but then when you start looking at the human impact. Is when it gets really hard, and there really is no way to lessen or say like the human impact would be. Better this way or that way. Financially, it sounds like we don't have much of a choice. And unfortunately, the human impact is something we can't mitigate in this circumstance. Is me, Michaela, or? Did you have any other questions?
I don't have any other questions, other than just, I assume we're going to be hearing from the public before we take a vote on this.
Yeah, we will. We do. Yeah, we should have time still. Greg is gonna need to leave probably before we get to the vote. Greg, did you have anything you wanted to add?
No, sad, but yeah, I don't know what alternatives that George has laid it out, what we're gonna do there.
Before we move on to the public comment, we do need to accept the June and July financial reports and audit reports. So do we have a motion to do that?
I'll make a second.
Okay, all in favor?
I,
Any,
Aye.
any opposed? I heard you, Michaela. You said aye, right?
Yes.
Okay, it clipped off the end, so, okay, motion passes. So we can open up public comment at this time for agenda items only. It does look like there's a lot of people, so I know in the public meeting notice, it said to keep it to 5 minutes. We would probably all appreciate it if you guys are able to keep your comments as concise as possible, and hopefully we don't have to enforce the 5 minutes. Does anybody have any public comments? Go ahead. Yeah, if you want to. I mean, I'm not gonna force you to stand in front of everybody if you don't want to.
Okay, great.
Just really quickly, normally we have people identify themselves when they're addressing the board, where they live and what their name is.
Sure.
Thank you, I will. Go ahead, honey.
I'm Robin Wisdom with the League of Women Voters. I live at 1260 Arcadia Drive, Roseburg. And I was gonna comment on the certification of the new board member, but I see you're having to go through some steps before you actually do that, which is great. And so I just wanted to remind you about how the Secretary of State has confirmed and verified the election for May 20. And so I'm elated that you're going to certify the new duly elected member. And you know, the league supports voting and also the counting of all legal ballots. And therefore we support certifying this election with the candidate that won. So that's all I have.
All right,
But thank you very much for your consideration.
Thank you. Okay.
I sit here, right?
Hmm.
Okay,
Yeah, and then just give us your first and last name.
my name is Quentin Bingham. I live here in town, in Colhagen. And I have concerns with defunding transit just in general. So I feel like defunding any transit anywhere is a deliberate act of discrimination against the passengers and their right to travel. I feel like it's an excuse to distract us from the fact that there is a stigma against public transit in the US. And it reinforces this stereotype that transit is somehow it is not relevant in the modern era. So the average rider of public transit is a citizen, and Americans on average are in debt. So many of them can't afford the cost of a vehicle. Many of us are expected to drive cars, but cars add costs to debt and maintenance, licensing, and add other concerns like congestion, traffic, and the accidents that cars cause. There's also along with the issues with highway expansions and the escalation of commitment, which is where they'll continue to keep building more highways and the issue never gets resolved. So I feel like there are other ways like to allocate the money from places like projects with highway expansions and instead allocating them to bus and transit, as well as on top of other things, bike paths or pedestrian paths. So without transit, there's no travel for many people, including myself, who relies on transit to get to work, and at 18 also relied on it to get to college. So no travel often means no jobs for people, and then on top of that, a slippery slope where no jobs, they would have to subsist off of welfare possibly. So I would advise that on top of my statement, that people contact their local Congress to support the citizens' right to travel and to continue funding the public transit system. Multimodal travel, which is different modes in which we can travel, like cars, buses, cycling, or even being pedestrians. Yeah, is what is true freedom for Americans, and options and choice is what gives us liberty. So that's my conclusion. Thank you very much for your time.
Yeah, thank you. I think
Yeah.
everyone up here agrees with you, and
Mhm.
like you said in your statement,
Yeah.
the more you can elevate that to people way more important than me.
Yeah.
Is better. So don't hesitate to write the letter and send it
Mhm.
to our representatives and stuff.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, did we have anybody else? Go ahead.
Yes.
Oh, if we have people online also, if you wanna have them put it in chat or raise their hand, and we will call on you guys as we see you.
I just want to state the fact that
What's your name?
I'm Tim Malone.
Thank-
I was driving for Sutherland School District. So I had to go to the superintendent because in the fall, they're $1 million in the hole. So for me, it was no more job. So because of that, they should have mentioned that, and they should have stated that after the school year, because the other lady that was cut, she got distracted because she couldn't be with the kids anymore. And guess what? She put the bus in the ditch because she knows that she's losing community because she can't be with the kids anymore. So when I approached the superintendent about my job, but also the teachers I laid off, the mechanics, all that, I got hey, we can't do anything about it, right? So my plea is transportation is for the people. It's the lifeblood of this community. So if a person, and it's an economic effect, because I'm a student at UCC. So these students are gonna have a hard time if they cut that route to that college. They're paying for their tuition or whatever it is. They need access to transportation to get to their class, including myself, in certain situations. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, if you look around the country it's vital that you have transportation. You have, you know, Chicago, you have BART in San Francisco, you have in Seattle, Sacramento has light rail. All those things are permanent because it affects the economy of the local Roseburg or whatever it is, because those people need access to go to Walmart or Fred Meyer to go to the store or whatever it is. Medical transportation, that's another issue. I drove cab before I came here. So 50% of my routes were to get someone to a medical appointment or to the store or whatever it was. So it's an economic impact on the community. People went bananas when they told us that, okay, we can't do the Saturday route anymore. So people are bent because guess what? They have a job on Saturday and they need to get to it. So, I know it's a money situation and we gotta count the beans and all that, and I've worked for Uncle Sam and I get it. But on the other hand, people need access to what we're doing here. It's a people business. And I don't know what the budget is for these other transportation thing, but they're probably faced with the same problem because it's a statewide issue right now. Everybody's being affected by what happens with the legislature, whatever it is right now. And it's not just transportation, but it's been over the history of Oregon. It's been PERS, it's been this issue, it's been no transparency and the pot tax money. So it's been compounded. And it's not just Oregon, it's California and Washington State as well. It's affected because there's no transparency in what they're doing. The only transparency I've seen on the West Coast was I lived in Idaho. So when COVID hit, they disclosed everything, what they were going to spend the money on, and they were transparent. So there wasn't an issue of, well, we're hiding this stuff from the public, or we're doing this, and let's pay Peter to pay Paul. And that's a common problem with our government, is they're gonna do the shell game and put money here and then take away money from here. Well, we're not gonna fund PERS, whatever it is. So it's a history of not being able to trust the government. That's the issue here. And it's paramount in our history. It's always been the states versus the federal government. That has not changed. That has not changed since Reconstruction in our history. And guess what? The people feel the pinch of all this. Not the legislature, not the governor. The people get the pinch. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thanks, Tim.
Thank you.
Sherry, George, are the cutbacks we're proposing gonna affect the college route at this point?
The red line, green line will still go to the college, and so, yeah, so we should still go.
As of, with what's being proposed right now, okay.
My name's Cheryl Chase. I live in Myrtle Creek, 333 Ruckles Drive. I'm the former general manager for the transportation district. And so I'm here to speak to you tonight because I've advocated for the people that ride the bus and for the system, for the employees of the system for over 15 years. And I am going to read this to you because I have a tendency to get off track and miss pieces. So there are a couple of agenda items I'd like to address. And the first one is the challenge to the elected Director Natasha Atkinson. She has not been sworn in yet to her elected position. To imply that the voters of Douglas County would vote along party lines for a non-political board position is an assault on the intelligence of the people who want this district to succeed. Everyone I spoke to regarding the board positions that were up for election wanted to know who they thought was the best qualified for the position. They did not ask if they were Republican or Democrat. They wanted to know who was best qualified. Hands down, Natasha is the best qualified for the position based on her years of interaction with transit, dial-a-ride, people with disabilities, and she's been a participant with the board, and she has also been a board member. She has the transit knowledge that is desperately needed at this table to help resolve these issues. So the number two thing that I wanted to speak about was the schedule changes, of course. So the proposed changes are alarming for a number of reasons. It appears that the plan is to cut approximately 34 revenue service hours per day. And that is a huge number when the entire system is barely over 50 revenue services. So we're cutting over half of the system. Eliminating the entire South County route, this translates to over 9,600 service hours per year, and the cuts are mostly to the rural areas. This would take transit backwards to a level of service that has not been seen in over 20 years. The proposed cuts show a clear-cut lack of knowledge when it comes to transit planning, as evidenced by timing for routes that will get people to work but won't get them home from work. When the district was created, there was a lot of research that was done as to what were the requirements for service within a district. Because it is funded with a payroll tax, part of the requirement is that the entire district must have service. In addition, the STIF funding rules for the payroll tax require that the funding go equitably back into the communities where it was collected. In Douglas County, it's not surprising that the number one place that it is collected is the city of Roseburg, but Dillard and Riddle fall in the top 5. That's because of the RFP plants and the other mills. So service must be provided to those communities and at a higher level than most other communities in Douglas County. It's not an option not to provide service to those communities. It can't be part of the plan to completely cut service to those communities. There was I heard it said that is not any part of the board or the district that there is a funding issue right now, but they were given a proposal over a year ago at budget time, and they were told, if we do not make these cuts now, minimal cuts now, we are going to be making major cuts next year. And here we are making major cuts. And it's insane to think that we can cut the entire South County. I mean, change it to where there are less runs, do something so that people can still make it to the county seat to go to court or to their probation officer or to the methadone clinic or to their classes at ADAPT or DHS or the DMV or anywhere. And to hear that some of the people that are in charge of making these cuts at this time have openly stated in groups of people that they do not care about what the passengers think is insane to me. To state that it doesn't matter what the passengers think, that if they don't like the changes, they can go out and buy a car. That just it represents such a disconnect from the people that they serve, such a lack of compassion. It's actually horrifying. I served in every position in this district. Except for a dispatcher. I was not a dispatcher. But I sat at the front desk here. I answered phones. I was a backup driver. I was a route driver. I was the medical transportation supervisor. I was the transit supervisor. I was the general manager. I did all 3 of those jobs at once. I helped put this district together, and to see it being torn to pieces with a level of service that hasn't been seen since before 2006 and with 3 times the funding that we used to have. There are other ways to resolve some of these issues, and cutting the entire South County route is about the worst way that we could look at doing it. It is already a commuter route. It is already minimal service. And the people that, so the numbers are down on South County Route. When we implemented that route in 2010, within 2 years, the ridership was up to 25,000 people, and it ran between 24 and 27,000 people for years until COVID hit. And it was on its way back. It was coming back. And in, I don't know what month it was, people started forwarding me things and saying, hey, what can we do about this? How can we address this? And the Facebook page that had over 1,000 followers that people went to figure out whether or not their bus was running late or if it was broke down and information was disseminated, that Facebook page was taken down. And now there's a Facebook page that doesn't even, it's not even up to date, it's up. And it's got less than 100 followers, but that's how information is being disseminated. So people aren't able to find the information that they need, or they think they're getting the information, but their source is no longer there. So I should probably stop right there. Suffice to say, I'm passionate about succeeding, the district succeeding, about the employees being successful, but about our passengers being able to continue living a life that is not dependent on asking their neighbor or hitchhiking or, some other method of getting where they need to go. Taxi's not affordable, Uber's not affordable. Those are not options. So what do? Just as the other gentleman stated, dump them out. They're already on welfare. They're already on food stamps. They already can't afford to drive. And we're gonna make that worse for them. It's just not acceptable.
Thank you for.
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you.
Real quick, George, how soon does the decision need to be made on the cuts in order to avoid risking having to shut the whole, in order to not being able to like pay the monthly expenses and not having any transportation district at all?
Before September 15th, we have to enact it before September 15th.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, you can just call me Miss Lancaster. I came up here because my truck broke down a few months ago and I've been driving all my life until that point. And I grew up in a place where public transit wasn't a big deal. I stayed out of the light until I no longer had a vehicle after 4 years of driving. I am a self-proclaimed advocate of people and children with disabilities. I've worked around disabled people and children all my life, was raised with them. I am a disabled person myself with various different things, autism, PTSD. And I think it's quite bogus that we have all these disabled people, special needs, children, adults that need these rides, need these transportations when they don't have their caregivers for 1 or 2 days. And we cannot provide the transit for their either caretakers or for these disabled people to get to and from their doctor's appointments. We have veterans, we have disabled children that are in 21 programs, my little sister included. And I think we need to open up more freedom, at least provide something for the mentally and physically disabled. Because having Saturday service gone as a disabled person, it's been making going back to work very troubling, especially with the stigma around young people being able and capable. I did have an interview at Fred Meyer's, and although there is convenience from my home, if I used to live where I did in Camas Valley, it wouldn't be that way. There's no bus to Camas Valley. And even if I got to Winston, I would still only be down here an hour, give or take, even if the bus isn't late. My main concern is the kids. I might still be young, close to a child myself, but I've been on my own for quite a while to know that I think, if anything, just take care of the kids. Take care of our adults, respect the elders, as we said, because I think the elders and the children have less respect for each other because of all these issues that are going on. And I think the bus system brought a community. I have a bus stop right in front of my apartment complex, as well as a couple other people that are here today. And because the community we've made together on those bus rides, we've gotten to know the people that we've come to know and love. And I think taking that away is taking away community. It's taking away kind people. I was waiting at a bus stop in 100-degree heat, and there's a guy that gave me 2 nature bars. I'm very grateful for that day.
And it was a very rough day that day. But I think that if anything, at least do it for the kids, do it for the disabled. I care less about myself, just for the people that are more in need. Because just because I am disabled too, I think everyone should get a chance, no matter how able they are. And I hate sitting aside and seeing these 18-year-old disabled kids who are mentally 7, like my younger sister, and not being able to feel safe on a bus or not being able to get to one in general, or not having access points. The bus stops on Diamond Lake are very dangerous, and so are the sidewalks. So I'm also not just blaming you guys too, but it's also justifiably the infrastructure of Roseburg as well as many other places in Oregon, justifiably. But
Thank you.
thank you so much.
We do have comment online. I believe.
So
Lisa Lonza.
did you want to address Jennifer's also?
Oh.
And Brenda's had her hand raised for a while too, online.
She has. Did you say that it was my turn to go?
Did you want to read out or do you want me to read it?
You can.
Oh, Jennifer was asking if the 520 is the 520 individual one-way rides or 260 round trips in 1 month, or do we have a way of knowing that?
It's just riders, every time they get on the bus, the driver.
Okay, so it would be a combination probably
It could be a
of the two,
combination.
okay. And then,
You might want to sit in a chair.
well,
No.
we may end up needing to cut short, in order to get through everybody, but who has their hand still up in the gallery? Oh, Brenda.
Yes, good evening, everyone. This is my first Zoom meeting, but my name is Brenda Gordon. I'm a 60-year-old disabled woman. I've lived in Riddle for almost 8 years. I deal with many different ailments, including diabetes and bone disease. I use a walker and do not drive or have access to a car. The bus is my main transportation to get to my appointments, majority which are in Roseburg. I do have medical transportation, but only 12 round trips a year. So which I have to use to go to Grants Pass and Medford. So my primary doctor's in Myrtle Creek and my pharmacy's on Roseburg. It's hard enough with the new schedules as it is, but to take away only 2 stops in Riddle, it's outrageous. I'm not the only person who relies on the bus system. You need to really think about the human factor of what we're going through here. We have no doctors in this town. We have no way to get to where we need to go without the bus. I understand budgets need to be met, but you have to figure out what the human compassion is, because you can't cut us off. You can't. You need to think about actual people and how we survive. I'm sorry.
No, I think
Just-
you're right, and I think everybody up here. Well, I cannot speak for everybody else, but I can speak for myself when I say I am and I do. And I have written down, well, you wouldn't want to try to read it because it's not in any logical order, but I have a lot of notes that I've taken on what everybody said and ideas I have and questions I want answered also. So please, I will take into consideration the human impact. I am.
Thank you.
Thank you. And then was there Lisa?
Hi there. My
Please.
name is, are you ready? Lisa Lanza, and I live in 10 Mile, Oregon here in Douglas County. Yet we don't actually have a bus route out here. I think the closest one would be out in Winston. Anyways, I would like to speak to the broader issue of election integrity. And as a resident, I would like to just demand that Dan Loomis provide the data and to resolve the court case. I can speak to this on a personal level because during the 2020 election, I had a question about my ballot that was cast because I was a PCP at the time, and everyone in my neighborhood, we were all doing our ballots together. My ballot was different than everyone else's. On my ballot, I had Cliff Bentz. Everyone else had Alex Scarlato. Anyways, I asked the county clerk for a cast ballot of the ballot that I had voted. And the cast ballot that I was sent was not the one that I voted, because that one showed that I voted for Alex Scarlato, which I did not. I have a lot of issues with, as somebody was talking about, the transparency in Idaho and not in the other 3 states, which coincidentally are all mail-in ballot states. Just would like to get that on the record, that I think that Dan Loomis should provide that information. And that is all I have to say, and thank you for hearing me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, you're. Listen, I was just about to do the watch thing, so.
Natasha Atkinson, Sutherland.
Okay, go ahead.
My question is, if you completely eliminate, South County, does that impact dial-a-ride and non-emergent medical transport? Because usually you run routes next to the other, so that will actually impact revenue in another way, because you've eliminated those sources of revenue too. So I think it's a multi-tiered, and I really appreciate all of the work that went into it, because I know that people are making really terrible decisions. And I don't have a solution for you, I apologize, but I think that the multi-tiers need to be looked at, because those do bleed into each other. And then I just want to say thank you to everybody who came here to support me to be sworn in tonight, so thank you.
George and Sherry, so will it impact the dial and ride?
Yes, we'll take that into consideration. As it does also have an expense to it also, so it is part of our calculations in order to make this work. Just understand that the gap is very large.
I think we are gonna have to close the public comment in order for everyone to get out of here before midnight. I do think that there's a lot of information, and you said that a decision needs to be, so I'm guessing if the decision needs to be made by the 15th, we would really probably need to make a decision by the end of the month in order to allow people time. Okay, so as a board, if we wanted to gather more information or have the executive committee gather more information and dive deeper into what these cuts would look like and what all the alternatives are, that is something we could potentially look at. Okay. Well, then Doug is gone for right now. Do we still have a quorum? So yeah,
We're just missing 2. Is that?
yeah,
Is
'cause
Greg
there's
going
like
to?
6 of us. Oh, Greg's back, yeah.
Oh, okay.
So we do need to make a motion regarding either directing, the executive committee to further look into the proposed cuts, or make a motion on the proposed cuts, either way.
I will make a motion that the executive group looks into it more and maybe come up with an easier plan.
I don't know if we
More,
can guarantee easier.
well, look at all the possibilities. I mean, these people have a lot of great information, so.
Okay.
I second that.
Okay, do we have any discussion on the motion?
Yeah, I don't think the motion adequately covers the urgency, though, that we need to make this decision, very quickly in order to avoid additional issues. So I propose that we amend the motion to put a time limit for that decision on there. And in addition to that, I would love the opportunity for people who are going to be impacted by these changes to be able to submit their letters or statements for our consideration when we're making this decision. But I would say we probably need to have a special meeting to decide this probably within a week, although I would defer to George to tell us when specifically we need to make the decision.
So we would need time for the executive committee to meet with George and Sherry and go through this, and then after that, schedule the executive session, and, I mean, what would be the latest day you'd be comfortable us having the executive session to discuss?
My recommendation is that.
We don't need executive session, just special, just
I'm
a
sorry,
special. meeting.
special
Yes.
session, thank you.
Okay. Mhm.
Yeah, but the board, the executive board meet with us and for us to come up with a solution by the end of this week.
Okay, okay, so Michaela, do you want to state the amended motion setting us a deadline for the executive board to have investigated by the end of next week, and then we can set the special session for before the end of the month? Does that work, George? Sherry?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah, I think as long as Bill accepts that, that change to the motion, we shouldn't need a second on that.
Yeah, I'll accept it, yes.
I'm okay with that.
okay, so we have a motion to direct the executive committee to further investigate the proposed cuts to routes and personnel. With their findings but before the end of next week, and report their findings back out in a special session no later than what's the last business day of the month? 29th of this month. Okay, all those in favor?
Bye.
Alright,
Any opposed? Okay, all right, we're good. Okay. So is there anything on the compliance update to report out that wasn't previously reported?
I don't know.
Okay. So then old business, we have driver safety.
Yes, so I got contact from Ray Kennerly for the gentleman that teaches verbal judo, but as we all know, that's specifically designed just for law enforcement. But the gentleman, Mr. Kinney, does offer a de-escalation course titled Communications Bridge, that he was more than happy to meet with our drivers. I'm in communication with him, trying to find, what best works for everybody, but that is definitely in the near future. So hopefully by the time we have our next board meeting, I'll have a date on the books.
Okay. Town hall events.
Yes, town hall event. I reached out to my contact at Roseburg High School. It is at the time that I did reach out to him, school is not in session. And so he hasn't received the calendar yet for this upcoming school session. And so he can't, put us down for the town hall event. But he did recommend for me to touch base with him in September to start looking at dates for our next town hall event.
Okay. So item 13.3, I feel like we've probably covered multiple times. Is there any reason to not strike that, or?
Michaela, did you have anything to discuss on 13.3?
I'm trying to get back to 13.3. Can you read what it
It was
is?
the election certification.
Oh, I think we went through everything.
Okay, thank you. We didn't need to make a motion on any of that, correct? It was all just, okay.
Yep.
14 is new business, so 14.1 was the employee handbook. And Sherry, if you want to go through all the proposed changes.
Yeah, so in your handbook, I highlighted the section that we were proposing to change. And it's just it's rewording a little bit and making it a little bit more specific. And then I lined out whatever we were planning to take out. But under the exempt employees, under the inclement weather and emergency closures, striking out will be paid for all absences related to emergency closures, and adding employers may not make salary deductions for partial week weather-related closures when an exempt employee is ready and willing to work. Employers may, however, require that the exempt employee use appropriate available PTO balances for the missed hours. These were all ran through HR Answers at SDAO. This is their template, the handbook, so, and then. Under use and management of PTOs. There was another section in there, we struck out part of it and reworded it. Employees must have sufficient accrued PTO to cover the full duration of any requested vacation. Vacation requests will not be approved if the employee does not have enough accrued PTO at the time of the request. If time off is taken without sufficient accrued PTO to cover the absence, it will be considered an unexcused or unapproved absence. Such absence may be including termination of employment. This does not apply to legally protected leaves, which will be handled in accordance with applicable laws. Please see the specific leave policies found in the handbook.
So just so I'm understanding, what you're basically saying is if somebody wants to take a week vacation and they only have 6 days and they wanna take 7, they would not be approved for the 7th day?
Very possibly.
Okay. And is that across the board, or is it if they're willing to take the 7th day without pay and it's not gonna cause a problem?
Well, I think in general, some of the problems that we have run into is that, people put in for a week to 2 weeks off in
Mhm.
advance, and then when the time comes, they've used up all their PTO and they don't have any time.
Okay, no, that makes sense.
And it's a regular cycle, unfortunately. And then under workplace professionalism, adding UPT just prohibits audio recordings of conversations amongst employees unless all parties consent in writing or the audio recording is part of an official public meeting in accordance with ORS 165.540. This. Okay. Oh, yeah. What's that? So those were just proposed, and everything, has gone through SBA's, HR Answers. They actually provided verbiage.
Do you need us to make a motion on all of those, right? So does somebody want to make a motion to approve all those, or do you guys wanna portion them out?
I just have one comment. I'm fine with all of them except the last one that was presented. Just because the prohibiting audio recording of conversations requiring written consent. In Oregon, written consent isn't required. The participants just have to be informed. There could be some situations for safety reasons or a number of other things where, somebody may be reasonable in recording, and I wouldn't want to overreach, over and above what the Oregon law requires. So that would be my only suggestion, is just maybe putting that one to be in compliance with Oregon privacy laws or something to that effect.
Or just remove in writing.
So
Yeah,
the only caveat to that is how you defend that. So if the permission was given before the recording was started, and then you start recording.
Well, they
there's no-
don't have to give permission, according to Oregon law. They only have to be informed that they're being recorded.
So how do you do that and like protect yourself? So that's my question. So if say I were having a conversation with somebody and I said, by the way, I'm going to record you. And then I start recording and then they come back and say, you never informed me. Legally, I can't start recording until I've informed them. And if it's not in writing, how would you protect yourself from that?
You could maybe say it again after you start recording. I'm not sure about that. I'm just saying that technically this isn't in compliance with Oregon law. So if we just said that UPTD requires audio recordings to be in compliance with Oregon law, we don't have to change our workplace policies when Oregon law changes.
Okay. And is there different, so I know, is that across the board for workplace also? Cause I know some workplaces don't allow any audio recording, right?
Well, telephone recording is even different. You only have to have one party consent for telephone recording.
Right.
So should we look into, and you said you ran this through, that one through HR Solutions also?
Mhm.
And they approved it the way it was,
Yeah, she provided the language.
the language?
Are
Would
they
you want-
Oregon specific? HR Answers is it Oregon?
The Special Districts Association of Oregon.
I can't hear her, I'm sorry.
She said it was the SDAO that provided that.
Okay.
But if you just wanna say unless all parties consent, I mean, in accordance with ORS, I mean, I don't, you wanna reword it?
I mean, I think whatever you guys are comfortable with, it was a policy that you were suggesting changing. So if you're comfortable with changing that language without looking into it further, I don't see why that would be a problem.
We could table that one until the next meeting and approve the rest of them.
That would work too. I was just getting ready to try to spit out the entire motion, so yeah. So if we wanna table that one, does somebody wanna make a motion to approve 14.1.1 through 14.1.3 as stands?
I so moved.
So moved.
You want a sec? Okay, we got lots of motions and seconds, so.
I'll take
All in
either side,
favor?
I don't care.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And then do we have what was your thought on 14.1.4, Michaela? Would you like further clarification on the ORS or further communication from SDAO or?
I could take it back to SDAO and just let them know what the language that they don't like and see what else they suggest.
Okay. So we can table that until, okay. Okay, so 14.2, a temporary freeze on management team dismissals. Do Sherry or George see a reason to keep that on the agenda, or are you okay with striking it?
Okay, with striking.
Okay, so we're gonna strike that. Board training, we already discussed. Do we need more discussion or anything on that?
Yeah, so I see that there's training gonna be in Eugene on the 15th, is that right? I've already put it on my calendar, so I need to go and register for that.
It's the 16th.
Yeah, or get a hold of them here and she'll walk you through, well,
Okay.
after you get the email thing sorted.
Yes.
Yeah.
Alright. Yeah.
And we may have some scholarship funds that Jennifer, I don't know if Jennifer's still online with it, she might. If we fill out scholarship paperwork, we can get reimbursed for.
Any cost, okay.
So I have something on that too. There is a separate training. So this one that's in Eugene, I do not believe it's the same required training that boards now receive. That I believe the SDAO will come to us to put on a training. And that should be done sooner rather than later. We're required during our tenure to take that training. And I believe they just finally got one certified through the Oregon Ethics Commission. And so I believe Amira has that information, but we should all be scheduled for that in person if we can find a time that works as a board.
Yeah, and I think that would be something important to move forward with after the county receives the notice of certification and all the board members are sworn in. That way we can get it all done at once instead of needing to schedule additional.
Yeah, I would just have Amira reach out to SDAO and find out what their timeline is for availability. They might have to schedule out a couple of months.
You guys have anybody have anything further on that? 14.4, the Washington DC trip. So where are we at as far as? I know we were supposed to get a report out on how the trip went and stuff, and then what the itemization for expenses was.
So I have some of the expenses here, but I don't have any feedback on the trip itself,
Okay.
so. You want me to?
Yeah, or
You wanna start with the feedback and then I can talk about the expenses?
Sure.
Okay.
So the feedback from the trip was, Ben and I both, met with members of Congress, from different states, even from our own states. We received a lot of support from, members in the House here, for the state of Oregon. They understood what was going on in our internal state politics, and even though they're not part of the, that branch anymore, they said that they were gonna reach out to their colleagues to come up with some sort of resolution. What was good about the trip was being able to understand from a federal level where other states are also feeling the same pain. Some have been able to find some temporary solutions. States like in New Mexico, their situation very much different than ours, just simply because of the fact that they had reserve money in place. We don't. Also in places like in Texas where their government is much smaller, their tax base, large state, right, but their tax base for their population, especially in transportation. They couldn't meet the needs of the public even on their own route line. So being able just to create new stops where stops are needed, not even taking them off course, was very difficult for them. To be able to put in places, there's new home communities popping up all over Texas. Texas leads in new home development throughout the country. So I will say that the complexities of transportation, public transportation, are being felt nationwide. And everyone's dealing with it in different ways. Some have budgetary issues within their own state budgets, but also federal funding and the unsure funding stream is also a concern from all of the members that we've met. It was very rare to see that no one was having some sort of initiative or concern over being able to fund public transportation over the next 4 years. I would say those are the biggest takeaways, our trip. What I will say is that, from the trip too, it was good to let other states know that we're also involved and that we're participating and that we're reaching out also. You know, it was nice that other states did want to hear from us and wanted to hear what's happening also in Oregon as we're trying to, you know, connect transportation, not just within a county, but within a state level and also on a federal level of what does transportation look like in the United States.
Perfect. Do you feel like any of it? Do you feel like the messaging is going to get shared and any potential positives will come from it, or do you think it's unfortunately everyone's hands are tied because of the state nationally?
I think everybody's hands are tied, to be quite honest with you, especially with funding packages that were recently passed in Congress. But I think that we have to keep those channels of communication open because when big transportation dollars arises, we need to be able to participate both with the state and other states as big transportation packages will eventually come, whether it's in this administration or next administration, that helps connect public transportation. So we have to keep our eyes open and really continue that collaboration amongst, you know, within our own state and also outside of the state of Oregon.
Sherry?
On the expenses for the DC trip, the lodging and the airfare, yes, thank you. Ran about probably about 4,200. And then there was per diem, which was for their meals. George, I cut his check up front. We used our travel reimbursement sheet and went online to find out what the GSA rate was for per diem in the Washington DC area. And so George had his funds. Ben used his company credit card, and I have requested receipts to reconcile the credit card, and I have not yet received any of those. So I can hand those over.
So do we have
Maybe
any
maybe in your
idea?
negotiations, you can discuss it with them.
Yeah, that would probably be helpful to, for the executive committee. What is, just for my own curiosity, what is the per diem rate in DC?
So the per diem rate in DC, breakfast is $23 a day, $26 a day, and dinner is $38 a day.
That's less than I thought it would be. I don't know many places in DC that you can get breakfast for $23, so.
Yeah.
Dinner for 30.
Yes, I don't have any additional outstanding expenses for George, but I have not been able to reconcile.
Okay. All right, thank you. Project updates. So is Ben wanting to give, or are you gonna handle the CEO report?
Don't see.
He left.
Okay, I guess I can handle that. So one thing I would like to acknowledge is, the staff at UPTD. The staff have done an incredible job with being able to maintain our bus routes, really working on this budget. It's not all about numbers, but unfortunately, we cannot put fuel in our vehicles if we don't have money. We can't continue to pay payroll and the bus drivers if we don't have money. And what's disheartening to see is the attacks on social media towards the staff. I think it's very unfair, simply because people don't understand. And right now, our hands are tied because of funding coming in. And, also acknowledging too, the pain that the community is feeling. In these conversations that we've had, what do? We have very limited options. And one thing is for the board to understand is that we don't have reserves. Those reserves were eaten up by previous administration. We also are still trying to offload a $250,000 worth of chargers that have been sitting in our garage for years. And so we are very limited on options, and yet the brunt of it is being taken out on the staff. And that is not fair to the staff. Because everybody comes in and puts an incredible amount of time to try to figure out how we get people to their medical appointments, how we figure people to get to school and things of that nature. Unfortunately, the situation right now is we were short on funding that was coming from the feds this last quarter. We're still waiting on additional funding. We don't know what's happening with the state, and we don't know when we're getting our federal funds. And because we don't have a reserve, this is what we're left with. And so difficult decisions will have to be made. But what I want the public to understand is that if you want to be mad at anybody, it's time to pick up the phone and talk to your legislature, both at the state and federal level. And also too, if you want to take it out on anybody, take it out on the executive team and not the people that are actually trying to provide you with the services. It's not fair to them, because they show up every day to do this job. And right now, through our recommendation is also, it's painful to lay off people. It's painful to tell the entire team that we're going to furlough them also. We are doing everything that we possibly can in order to be able to save the district. So my recommendation is that we really look at what these next 6 months looks like, and it's about a state of survival. We also need to start looking at investing time into philanthropy. There's nonprofit organizations out there that can provide us with funding. I'm not saying that somebody's going to write us a check for $500,000, but it's money that can be tapped into, and possibly that does happen. But we need to start looking at that. We also need to launch, what we want to do is be able to launch our advertisement. We have a new bus. We're going out there telling people to advertise with us. We have a package that we're ready to launch. That will help drive money in, but that takes time. We also need to start looking at, really working with local municipalities. I think this is a win for local governments too, to be able to come in and say that they're gonna also participate, so that way. Transportation can be provided, to their constituents there. So I think that this is gonna be a team collaborative effort. But what I do not recommend is us pointing the finger at each other. We get nowhere with that. The other thing is to also acknowledge that no matter what, in this very difficult time, people will be impacted, people will be hurt. I will tell you, my job previous to this was managing social determinants of health for the state of Oregon. Talking about equity and inequality and all of these things, it's a challenge. It's even more of a challenge when you don't have the money for it. So we need to be as proactive as we possibly can, but we also, again, as a community, be going after the people that are trying to provide those services and really telling a false narrative, because people don't really understand the dynamics of what has happened over the years and what it took for us to get here and why we can't weather this storm. So I think we just need to be able to move forward. And as far as other updates right now, when it comes to what the future looks like for UPTD, I will say we will weather the storm. It's gonna be tough, and it's gonna be a very tough next 6 months, but we can weather this storm. I truly do believe financially we will be in a better place, especially once the money starts to come in and we start to get reimbursed. Again, we're gonna have to be very strategic in what that looks like, because we can't say, oh, look at our bank account now. What does the next quarter look like? What is happening politically on a federal and state level that we understand? How do we unwind? But between now and there, us as an executive team and as the board, we need to be able to work together, and we need to get commitments from local municipalities to help fill this gap between now and the next 6 months.
Has anybody looked into grants or anything to help?
So I would say that this bombshell has been pretty new, and across the state, we've all, in the special districts, we have all been like, wow, this is crazy, because everybody has tightened their belts. So we haven't had enough time to actually react in a proactive way to look at grants right now. We've been trying to figure out, how do we survive, because we need to shut off whatever we're gonna do within the next 30 days.
But we should have somebody on staff to look into that, just to see where we can go with that.
Yes, yeah, and it's something we've already started to discuss.
George, it sounds like kind of moving forward, there's a multi-phase approach to this. Is one, the social media, like it really needs to shift to explaining why we're at where we're at and focusing on what is going well and getting the messaging out there that our drivers are still there for you. If you want to see this change, the message needs to be moved higher up.
Correct.
And then, building those better relationships with our local municipalities to potentially see if they can help bridge some of these gaps. Which it was my understanding a long time ago was something that had been in play and kind of faded out for one reason or another. So it's focusing on that and then looking at grant funding and what our opportunities might be for that, and going from there to try to see how we can build that reserve and end up reinstating these services.
Correct.
We'll just do that then.
And I would say on the project management side of the house, which I usually report on a monthly basis. We have several projects right now that are categorized. Those are at risk from our own internal scoring. We've put a lot of those projects on hold, one, because we don't have the money. And also two, we have been concentrating a tremendous amount of time on the routes and understanding ridership and what would be the recommendations of the board. I'm not too worried about the project management side of all the projects that we're trying to work on right now. Those are gonna have to wait until the board determines where we're gonna sit with our budget, and then we'll bring project management and all those projects, back into play. But for now, the most cost-effective way to do it is all those activities are being put on hold right now.
Did you have, it sounds like you kind of already updated on the advertising that we do have one sitting that we're trying to get out there and that you're gonna focus on looking at developing that in the future.
Yes, it's pretty much, almost all of it is developed as far as our advertisement. We have to follow FTA rules and regulations. And so right now, we just have to complete that process, and we have a few people out in the community that are interested in doing advertisement, but we do have a lot of space for advertisement on bus stops and our buses and things like that. We need to fully launch that to be able to generate some more unrestricted dollars into the organization.
And ultimately, I mean, the more funding that we get that's unrestricted or is not dependent on state or federal dollars, the more solvent the district will become.
Absolutely.
Okay. And then, did you guys want to touch on ridership again, or do you feel like it's been covered?
I think we covered it. Well, I would say one thing on ridership though is, numbers pre-COVID are very deceptive. I mean, those are days of the past, and what happened after COVID. I mean, we're slowly trying to get back up to those numbers, but still, when you look at ridership compared to the cost of what it is and what we're receiving in our fare box. Again, we're not trying to make money, right? We're trying to just keep the operation alive. It's very difficult to justify the ridership and the cost, and where do you actually try to save $500,000 in a very short period of time?
Do we have anything not on the agenda that needs discussed? I don't think so. Oh, wait. Jennifer, sorry, I just saw your hand.
I just want to caution you on your advertising. There are restrictions. Federally funded vehicles and federally funded facilities do have some restrictions on them on how you can spend the money and how you advertise. So while it's a great way to try to get an increase in revenue, you do have to be cautious. And I think I've sent some information over a couple different times, but I just want to caution you all that there are restrictions on when you actually can spend it and how you spend it, and also on the advertising, because it has to be competitive. So just want to make sure that you have that. And then the only other thing that I really wanted to mention is that, cuts are really a very hard thing to do because everybody wants the systems to grow. At this point in time, we have many agencies across the state that are having to cut service. RVTD, which is the largest one in our area, went from 15 routes down to 6. That's starting on September 1. They had to lay off 50% of their staff. Each and every one of the transit agencies within Region 3, and Region 3 is not unique. It's across the state, are having to cut and look at cuts for service. We know that it impacts people, and that's why we require that public input. So that you can take into account different possibilities. However, you have staff that you've hired that are looking at the numbers and that are trying to do the best for the whole community. And while, the STIF was designed to cover the whole county, it also has that flexibility to be able to target areas. It's never good to try to get rid of service for people, especially when they're dependent on the services, but there are alternatives. And looking at some of the partners that are in the area, for the Cow Creek Tribe has transportation mainly for their members, but there could be people that are on your routes that possibly are members of the tribe that could utilize that service. And then also looking at some of your other options and talking to other transit agencies. But I really want to just emphasize that UPTD is not unique at this point in time. We have the perfect storm with UPTD because you guys were short on cash at the beginning of last year. And a year ago, you had zero money. So to be able to say that you guys have stayed in service for this period of time is awesome. You've worked hard and you continue to work hard. And unfortunately, the community is going to have to work with you in order to keep transit going during these lean times. And ODOT is also here to help you, and I will try to provide as much support as I possibly can. I really try to push when we have payments that are coming through to ensure that you guys get them in a timely fashion. And with Sherry putting in information and getting those in quickly, we can get them paid quickly. So just want to make sure that you really support your staff that you have, and then reach out for help whenever possible. Thank you for letting me speak.
Thanks, Jennifer. Michaela.
Yeah, just one thing before we close, because it's not on the agenda. We do have a special legislative session coming up at the end of the month to address the transportation package that did not pass. Our representative, Virgil Osborne, is on the line, and I don't know whether or not he has a minute to come off mute and tell us about what's going on there. But I think it's really important for people to hear about this, because what has been proposed is a lot more tax increases and things that are going to hurt our community. And we've had some really great legislators in there fighting to help us keep our money and have it spent responsibly. And rural Oregon is continually not provided with the same amount of funding, really to get anything done the way that pet projects are paid for in Portland. And that's where we need to be fighting, is to get that money during that special legislative session, and for it to be going to the right place, which is to rural Oregonians that are hurting the most. So I don't know if Virgil can talk about that really quickly, but if he's available, I think it would be great for people to hear.
Virgil, are you on? He might not be on, Michaela.
No, I'm here. I'm just having the darndest time trying to unmute myself. Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting to speak tonight, but thank you, Michaela, and she's not wrong. Rural Oregon is suffering for sure, with the most of the transportation dollars being sent to Multnomah County, Clackamas County, and there's a chart out that we've had available in the past. Now, of course, the dollars are spent per the population, so it's typical the populations are higher up there, so that money is going to go there. Even though the utilization of the mass transit in those districts are not that great, and they're obviously not as safe as what's going on here as well. Tomorrow night at 5:30, we are having on Facebook Live. If you're interested in hearing all the details about the transportation package, we will have myself. We will have Leader Drazen, the Republican Party leader. We will have our deputy leader, Lucetta Elmer, and we'll also have Shelley Bossart Davis, who is kind of our expert on transportation, and Nick Stark, who is our Oregon Freedom Coalition chair. So we are going to have open questions and answers about what the transportation package looks like. As you know, we killed it at the end of session. And now we're coming back with a 6 cent per gallon gas tax increase and several other increases. And a lot of that money is not going to be spent on transportation. It's going to be basically wasted on DEI and some other things that I don't really agree with. So yeah, we're fighting for you. And thank you for the lead in, Michaela. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Virgil.
Okay. Anybody have anything else? I'm assuming we have no public comment on anything not on the agenda item. We can all go home. Perfect.
I was gonna make one comment.
Oh, sorry.
For the people that are left that are still interested. The fact that we're having to make these cuts is horrible to me. Throughout the last 2 years, I've randomly gotten on buses and not to see the performance of the drivers or anything to do with the drivers, but to see the need and remind myself why I keep showing up here. You know, I see the people going on a Saturday to get 2 bags of groceries at a time because they don't have another option. So regardless of what we have to do in the future, I feel the pain, so. You know, it's noticed, at least I see the need for transportation and we'll get it back as quick as we can.
Thanks, Doug. Right, I think if we're good and there's nothing else, our next board meeting is scheduled for Monday, September 15th, 2025. And then we talked about doing the special session, which I think we'll see how quickly we can get all the information gathered next week, and then we can hold it sooner if possible. And if nobody has anything else, the meeting. Oh, sorry, the agenda build.
I
for
was-
next.
I was gonna say, if we do want to adjourn, I think you're probably capable of building the agenda. If we just want to email you, if we want to add something, if we can just agree to that, we could
That
maybe go.
sounds fantastic. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. Right, yeah, I think a few of us would like to use the restroom soon, so, all right, we can consider the meeting adjourned.
Thank you all.
Thank you.